Welcome to the Remarkable Life podcast. I'm your host and coach, Caryn Gillen, and I'm here today with a special guest who shared some insights into her business, some data, and it really made me want to say, "Hey, Sheilanova, do you want to come on my podcast and talk about this?" Because data, even though it sounds like it's not fun, can be very illuminating in terms of what's working, what's not working, what are the patterns that we can take forward to make our businesses more powerful, and how can we use our energy in even better ways moving forward. So that's what I'm always looking for when I hear fun data like what Sheila Nova is going to share with us. So I want to say welcome, and can you introduce yourself in the way that you like to?
Of course. Thank you so much, Caryn. And it's Caryn, not Karin.
Nope, it's Caryn, not Karen.
It's Karin. Oh
Yeah,
no.
sorry, all good.
Should have asked that before. Karin. My name is Sheilanova, like supernova. That's my first name.
Mhm.
I am the anxious attachment coach, and I help women stop obsessing over all those guys, start feeling fully secure in themselves so they can go on and really transform their love lives with a hell of a lot more self-confidence.
Oh, that's fun. I actually did couples therapy and a retreat with my husband, and it was all through the attachment lens. It was really great.
Mm,
Hmm.
love that.
Yeah. So tell me, tell us the story of what prompted you to share the post that you did. Give us a little background.
Okay. So I guess we should share the post that I posted,
Do
which
it.
basically I went onto the coaching passe at like, I think it was like 5 a.m. And and I was like, in the last, I said over the course of I think 18 months, I have had 151 consultation calls that have not turned into clients.
Okay.
And then I went on to say that I've had 35 people who ended up saying yes, paying clients. And then
Hmm.
five of those people I think backed out. That was really early on. Um, I've since updated those numbers a little bit
Hmm.
to get a little more in depth. But the reason why I wasn't planning on posting that all came from a space of me waking up at 4 a.m. because I was really getting to work on my business. I had set a really big money goal now about 4 or 5 weeks ago, and I was just getting to work. And so I've been waking up around 4 and 5 about every morning since then, getting to work. And I started looking at some numbers because I wanted to make some more or less accurate predictions on how to hit this goal. I also was building out a list segment to retarget all of the people who had ever booked a consultation call with me onto an email campaign that I wanted to then try to kind of essentially re-offer them a different offer. And this is all in line with me trying, in the sense of me trying to hit a goal. And once I started looking at all these numbers and I created this email list, this segment of my email list, which is included all these consultation calls, I was like, holy shit. You know,
A lot.
I don't know if I'm allowed to swear on the podcast. I
Yes,
should
you are.
have asked you that before. Was like, oh, I really think this is a huge number and other people should really know about this. People don't really talk about this a lot.
Mhm.
Um, and I also saw that number and I was like, wow, that's really incredible that I have had that many no's essentially. And I've never really thought about it. I've kept going. I've never really looked at those numbers in the last 2.5 years. Now, I said that those consultation calls happened over the series of 18 months. But actually, if you look at the time period of which they happened was over the last 29 months or about 2.5 years.
Okay.
I say 18 months because a good 10 of those months or 11 of those months, I was not working. I was not marketing. I was not offering consultation
Okay.
calls. And so I've been in, I would consider myself in business in the niche that I am, fully fledged since December of 2021. And
Okay.
since December 2021, I've had 300 consultation calls booked.
Hmm.
Exactly 300. I just looked at the number today. It's
Okay.
like exactly 300.
And 151 plus 35
Yeah. So that means
have shown up.
exactly. So 104 people canceled those calls before I even got to them.
Hmm.
Now, 151 stayed on my calendar, or sorry, 186 consults stayed on my calendar.
Okay.
Now, not all of them I spoke to. I would say in the beginning, the first year, I had probably a 50% no show rate.
Okay.
My no
Great.
show rate is below 5% now.
Okay. So it's interesting to look at, okay, we have these numbers across years,
Yeah.
but what that doesn't give you is what's improving over time if you look at it in quarters or 6-month
Yeah.
increments or even year-long increments.
Yeah.
So have you looked at just the last 12 months by chance or just this
I've
year?
looked at the last this last in the last year, so which is since January, we're in four getting end of the 4 months. Um, I think I've had one no show out of I haven't looked at how many calls I've had since the beginning of the year. But it's I didn't at all offer so I didn't offer any consultation calls or any marketing in most of January and all of February. So in the last 30 to 60 days, most of my consultation calls have come in. Don't have those numbers. Those would be really good to get.
Mhm.
I could do it
Yeah.
right now. It'd take me a couple of minutes, but I could do it right now. It could probably take me like 90 seconds to figure it out.
Great. I'm going to pause the podcast and we're going to go do
Okay.
it. All right.
All
So
right.
we're back with the data. And Sheila, do you want to share it? Sheila
Yeah.
Nova, sorry.
So I have had 23 consults since January. Mind you, most of those have been all in March and April. I've had one no show and four new clients.
Okay. So the biggest change I see is that your no show rate is going way down,
Way down.
right? So you've cracked the code on no shows. Did you do anything in particular to change that? Like what happened?
I have a theory. Um, so in the beginning, I did a couple of things, in the beginning, I tried one thing. After about, I would say, the first year of just, I allowed that to happen for the first year. I was just trying to get as many consultations as I could. After this first year, I started doing a Loom video and sending it to them when they booked a consultation, and it was based off of their intake form, so it was kind
Hmm.
of personalized to them.
Great. So you started creating relationship with a cold market.
Yes, I think that then improved my no-show rate like 20%, like more.
Yeah.
Like it
Yeah.
maybe went from 50% show up rate to 70%.
Yeah.
I've actually done no show rates. I mean, I've actually sorry, I've done I've not done any Loom videos anymore, but my no-show rate has gone down, and I think it's a combination that I'm not running a cold ad to
Hmm.
the person booking a call. They're a warmer audience because I'm doing more organic marketing now.
That's the
And I
difference.
believe that it's the fact that my face is more like there's more video of me on Instagram. So
Hmm.
Instagram is my main platform where I have all of my, all of my content on. But before, like in the first year in 2022, that whole year, I was mainly running one ad that worked incredibly well to book a consult call with me, which is like
Hmm.
not something that is advised. It's usually
Right.
run an ad to your opt in to your freebie, then warm them up. And I never did that for the first 18 months of this.
Which is, I mean, why your numbers are so high and why your no show rate was so high and why the no rate was high, right? And the people coming
Right.
in, because if people come in, they don't have a feel for us. So they don't know.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I didn't know anything about that. I was just like, this is working. I had a baby, like a newborn baby in 2022. I was like, I could only
Something's
work
working.
three days at that point, and I was like, I'm just gonna do this because if I think at that point, if I dropped $1,000 a week on that one ad to book a consultation with me, I would get up to 12 consults booked, and I'd
Mhm.
probably turn one of those into a client. So it worked. It
Right.
worked for my high ticket program. I mean, it was sustainable. And so I spent 8,000 in ad dollars in 2022. I made uh, gross revenue over $88,000.
Okay.
So
So the
that's a
you
good,
were playing a
really great.
numbers game and it was
Yeah.
working for you. The numbers were
Yeah.
working for you.
Yeah, so if you look at, so it's 10, my rate is over, like, is slightly above 10% if you look at all the consultations booked, including the cancellations. If you actually just look at the people I literally spoke to over the phone, my close rate is above 25%.
Great. Okay. And it's increasing this year, which is good.
Yes, because it was definitely lower in the first year. And also I had unqualified people talking to me and people who literally just didn't know me.
Yeah.
And
So
looking back, I'm so fucking impressed that I even got anyone to say yes in 2022 because they didn't know me. Like looking
right.
back, I'm like, damn, that was badass. Like
Yes.
I can't believe I did that, to be honest.
Exactly. Yeah, because to get that much cold traffic and your business was how old in 2022? Brand new. You started in
Pretty much
2021?
I started, well, I have been I would consider my first full year in business is 2022. I really started like working 3 days a week when I had a kid in maybe September, October of 2021. I did not make $1 until December of 2021. And then all those clients quit.
Mm-hmm.
And there was like four of them that I got. They all either quit within the first month or they became MIA or they ghosted. And then the next month I was like, I think I had then 4 or 5 clients that ended up going on. And so in the beginning, that very first, what I would consider that first month, especially in this niche, because in September of 2021, I was not in my anxious attachment niche. I was like the mama drama coach, and I had to set up a whole funnel where I had done this freebie that was really amazing on how to deal with your difficult mother, and like I did a whole email sequence, and I like did all the things that all the business coaches tell you to do, and none of that shit worked. I got really, really impatient, but it was with because I was so impatient. I think this is actually a strong suit of mine. I was just like, fuck it. I'm like, I have nothing to lose. I just like wrote this copy one day, screenshotted 10 pictures of it, boosted it, and like immediately had like 4 consultations set. And that was the ad that I ended up using. I just boosted it. It wasn't even an ad done properly. I
Right.
boosted it for the next year, spent 8 grand on it. But that first in December of 2021, I consider the start of the business that I have now.
Okay.
That's when I started making money, but it took me from September 21 to really figure that out.
So who do you have to be someone who's willing to show up and do this amount of like cold traffic and this amount of consults? Because I've helped people build like relationship based businesses, which ads come, if they come later. And I'm
Yeah.
just curious, like, what's
I
the,
I get it. I did it wrong. I did the ads first and now I'm doing organic marketing.
I mean, I don't know if you did it wrong. I think you learned a ton and I think you
Right.
know a lot about yourself that
Yeah.
I've never learned about myself.
Yeah. Well, like wrong in the sense of it's typically not advised that way. And I I'll tell you something that I really learned about myself in those first several months when I was not making any money. And like going into that, I was recording voice notes to myself every day while I walked back and forth to WeWork from my house to WeWork. I was literally on the phone like a crazy person talking to myself. and talking to myself and literally having an out loud conversation with my future self who had already done this.
Okay.
Because I can, there was nothing like earning my like real first high ticket dollar and trying to do that. I've never experienced that much, you might call it drama or thought drama. In my mind, it was like the thing inside my head was screaming at me constantly that I was this fucking idiot, that I like just so delusional, that I was, was basically gonna be living on the street and, was running out of money. Like, what the hell are you doing? And I remember telling myself, like writing notes to myself, like, I want to listen to this when I've made it,
Mm.
essentially.
So you've kept them.
Um, and I remember also telling myself at the time, I completely get why people give up.
Mm-hmm.
And then in December, I had in December 2021, I had, I think, 32 consultation calls. And I mean, in the first 2 weeks, first 3 weeks, no one was signing. And I was just like, by the first, by the time like the second week, I had done like 10 consultation calls the second week. I was like, fuck this. We are doing something different. And I just got
Mm-hmm.
to work. I started researching how to do my consult betters. Like, I just
Okay.
became ferocious. Like, how am I going to do this? I am going to end this month with 4 new clients. And I did. It was the biggest high I've ever gotten.
Mm-hmm.
Like the dopamine hit. I hit those 4 clients on December 31st. And um and then of course it's so funny because looking back, all of them ended up, they either ended up dropping out the first month, or I don't know. They one, a couple of them just like went MIA, or and said, "Oh, I need my money back. I can't do this," or something like that.
Well, so what do you know? Because you've got your reps in with consult calls. What do you know now, like in your bones, about how to deliver a consult that we should all know?
You have to stay so curious with
Yeah.
the prospect, with or, the person on the phone, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
I have to say that is, even for someone like me who has a sales background and all of that, that is something that it's like I have a note. It's like stay open. It's like not attached to the outcome. It's like, but being in that energy. And I will say that's probably one of the hardest things to do.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember I had a niche at one point where the consults were so like everyone was saying the same thing and the calls were the same for me. And I got to this place where I was like, yeah, yeah. And those people would say no because they never got into the emotion that they needed to get
Yeah.
into to actually get
Yeah.
to say yes. And that was me
Oh, that's so good.
stealing that experience from them because I was letting myself just get into this rote process. And so one of the things I took away was like, if I don't get to at least 27 minutes into the call and we're still talking about the problem and the solution, then they're going to be a no. Like I got this really clear, like we've got to be curious for at least 27 minutes.
Oh my gosh. And that, when you just said that, it made me think I have probably done that lately, because I
Mm,
have been turning so many consultation calls the last like 60 days. And I never thought of it that way, but it's so easy to fall into that when you're like, yeah, yeah, like I totally know this. Yeah, this is, yes, it's all the same shit I've ever heard. Like,
right.
no one's situation is unique.
You're like,
Oh,
yes,
that's
reactive attachment.
so
We all get
good.
that.
You're
Yeah.
like, that's so good. I'm going to think about that the next time I'm on a consultation call.
Okay. So my question is, and so everybody listening can hear it, now that you have all of this data behind you and you have all of this deep understanding of what's a consultation call for me, and I'm imagining who am I exactly talking to now that you've talked to, almost 200 people, like how are you using that, like moving forward, what are your goals or how have your goals changed with getting people on the phone or making the sale?
I think if anything, my new goal, and I haven't figured out how to do this yet, and this is something that I really did want to talk to you about, and I think is a really interesting number, and people should know about this number. Yes, I've had 31 people to complete my coaching program. It's a 6-month program.
Okay.
I sell that at 4,000 right now. I used to sell it at 32 to 3,500. They have completed that. But I have had, this number is an approximation. I have had approximately 60 to 62 people tell me over the phone, yes, I want to work with you. I set up their first private coaching call. I send them the link to pay, and then they don't.
Mhm.
And so that is anywhere from a 37 to 45% of people who tell me yes, meaning I booked their first coaching call and I sent them the link to pay, do not end up following through. Now, in 2022, that 37% of people completely ghosted me.
Yeah. Which makes sense because
Like,
they were completely cold, right?
yeah, I guess, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, and it's hard for me to tell because it was all through Instagram, and some of those people did started following. Most of those people started following me from that ad, and
Right.
then as I kept having doing organic content, even though I was still running that ad, then they would sign up, and I really think those were the ones that I ended up converting the most.
Yep.
Um, I so 37% ghosted me. What I started doing, because I didn't pretty much work for 10 months in 2023, I did no marketing. Um, Once towards the end of last year, I started just asking people on the consultation call at the end of the call when they're like, yes, I'm like, hey, I want to let you know something. I've never really told this to anyone before, but last year, what I noticed is that 37% of people who said yes, really wanted to work with me, ended up going on and ghosting me. I said, look, I know I'm not here. I'm not like, I don't think you're going to try to do that. But on the off chances that that might happen for whatever reason it is, why might it happen? And I've
So
actually
again,
had,
staying curious.
yeah, totally staying
Yeah.
curious. And I was just
Yeah.
like, I have nothing to lose by asking this.
Right.
And I was told, one of the first times I asked that, I was told, you know what, if I'm being really honest, and I've heard this multiple times since I've asked it. If I'm really being really honest, I would, you know, I've never really bought anything over the internet. I met you and I know there's a lot of scammers and I'm a little bit afraid. Okay. So now I had something in my back pocket to use for that. And I'm like, would you be interested in actually speaking to one of my clients over the phone? And then I have one of my clients who is just like a diehard fan of mine. She's renewed like 3 times with me. She's like, I will literally talk to anyone who you'd like a
Mm.
reference for. And so I've always sent them to that one client, and that has done like a really great service. That's just like amazing.
Yeah. That's amazing when you have someone who's willing to do that. But it's also amazing that you had enough rapport that someone would be willing to tell you what they
Yeah.
were afraid of. Yeah.
Now, since then, the rate of people who said yes and then backed out has not declined. In fact, I just looked at the numbers from January. It's increased to 42% or 45%, actually. Um, but the people who have the percentage of people who have ghosted me is 0.
Okay. So
And
they're
so
in
no
more
one's
communication with you.
ghosting. There's no more ghosting anymore. And maybe that is because my audience is more warm now because I'm doing organic outreach. Or marketing.
Yeah.
I don't do
Yeah.
organic outreach.
Well, and
Marketing.
you're increasing transparency with them about your process, which will make them feel more safe to increase their transparency about their process too.
Yeah. Yeah. So one of the other things that I'm working on now, and I did this a little bit back in the end of 2022, was asking a question on my intake form to kind of allude to some chunk of money that would need to be paid if they wanted to work with me. So I didn't actually advertise my entire price of my coaching program. I said, like, a minimum payment. The first minimum payment would be due within like 24 hours if we decided that we were a mutual fit. And then I put that payment amount down.
Yeah.
And I've done that now again to try to qualify more like better
Right.
qualify and weed some people out.
Which is the ultimate thing that I advise clients on. Like, if you're at the point where you know how to have a really solid consult and you're having so
Yeah.
many consults that it's not even fun anymore, it's time to advertise your full price, because it will cut your rate of consults way down. Like, people will stop
Yeah.
showing up as much because the tire
Yeah.
kickers won't get on the phone.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
did that when my rate was around the 3,500 mark, and then I sort of changed the payment plan, the process of it, and then I took it away, and I really noticed I noticed it was more consultations, but the
Yeah.
rate was lower.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. It's a lever to play with. So you like how you do your consults. You like the yeses that are coming in. You've increased the communication with people who are a yes that switch to a no. So you're wanting more of the people who say yes but switch to a no to be a firm yes. That's the next frontier.
yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
it's like how um and some of like one of those, for example, was a woman who was like, absolutely, I'm all in, like, let's go. She even talked to my former client. I hooked her up with her, and she was like, and then she emailed me and she goes, Sheilanova, she was like, I was so excited about joining your program that I was just telling my colleagues about it. She's like, I couldn't believe I found you. And then my colleagues told me that our company offers 12 weeks of free coaching through Lyra. And she was like, so I'm going to
Mm-hmm.
do that first. I was like, like,
Mm-hmm.
it's okay. There's nothing I
You
can
got her some
do to
support.
stop
Just
her.
wasn't with you.
Right.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Exactly. Um, in the past for the ghosting, I have no idea, but typically now it's been things like, um, after I gave it a good think, like, this is really a stretch for me financially, or, it's just not something I can really do now. I've even had people like, oh yeah, can I get back in touch with you? Um, I'm really looking, like, I have to do something right now. And it's just, but more of them are like very thankful, and then it's usually some like financial issue that they use.
Yeah. I mean, there's a certain, like, I think the industry standard is 50% close rate is when you feel like you've got your messaging done, but that's not for a cold audience. That's for a
Right.
warm audience, which I think is kind of low. Like, if you have a warm audience, I think you can get higher than 50, please. But for a
Yeah,
cold
maybe.
audience,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah.
Especially if they're well qualified,
Yes.
it
Which might
coming
be
into
a
the
step you
call.
could take. Like,
Yeah, which I think and I think for me, I am like at this point, I think there's like a not wanting to risk it to really put my full price out on there in the
mhm,
intake form, and being like, this program is $4,000. Well, because I have different payment plans available, because they can pay through a 2-month payment plan, or they can set up like a 12-month payment plan through Kajabi, Afterpay now, because Kajabi
mhm.
partners with Afterpay if you're in the US, which is really freaking cool.
Yeah.
And so I don't know if you're aware of that, but
Yeah.
Afterpay is great for the client and the consumer, because the consumer and the business, because as the business I get paid up front even if they only owe Afterpay $300.
Right. Yeah. So the options are there for pricing. So there is a minimum monthly payment of $300.
Or like a 347, I think, is the minimum monthly
Mm-hmm.
payment if they did a 12-month program. But not everyone's available. That offer isn't available for everyone, because Afterpay is also like your relationship with Afterpay, and the
Right.
the payment options are available to you, like, depend on your
Right.
credit, depend on your relationship with Afterpay.
Yeah. That makes sense.
So what
Okay.
I've said in my intake form is something along the lines, and I can't make it very long on the intake form, like the question, but it says at the very end, it says, um, if if we are if you and I find that working together is a mutual fit, are you ready to invest in coaching or something like that, with payment plan starting at 680 a month? Because that's the 6-month payment plan in Afterpay that most people qualify for.
Okay. So then for
The
you,
odd
what's
thing is, I just want to share with you because I think this is important
Yeah,
for you to know. The odd thing is when I look at when I've switched to this system and raised my price to 4,000, everyone is paid up front. No one's used Afterpay,
that is interesting.
even though they said they probably would. So
Hmm.
I
Yeah,
don't know. Sorry. I know I kind of cut you off there.
no, that's fine. I mean, buyer behavior is interesting to watch because you want to know what your people are up to. So it's good to just take
Yeah.
note of what's happening.
Whereas in 2022, nearly every single one paid on a 4-month payment plan
Okay.
that I had set up.
Yeah. And I mean, the market has changed. This is a different year than most people
Oh,
have
yeah.
ever seen in business who have done it for a very long time.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, what's the next experiment that you want to try that you think will move the needle for you? You have one in mind?
Are you, in terms of just consultation calls?
In terms of more yeses,
Hmm.
more money in the bank, more of them getting the help they
Oh,
came for.
definitely. I want, I think that I can nurture more of my audience through I lack on like emails. Like I lack on nurturing my email list. And there have been a lot of people who have opted into my freebie now, which I think is really, really valuable. And people have told me like you should charge for this. This is like a master class kind of thing. And I'm like, awesome. I love that feedback. Totally keeping it for free. And but I have like 6 emails tied to that. Like I have not done that great
Okay.
of
How many
work.
people are on your list?
Maybe a little under 1,000.
Yeah.
Maybe it's not that much, like 800.
Right. So, we have similar size lists.
Yeah. And
Right.
I don't spend a lot of time nurturing
Yeah.
that list.
Okay. So, if you have let's say 1,000 people on your list and you've had 40 to 50 people become clients from that list, yeah, I mean, you've got some room here to really do some. It'd be interesting because at the very start of our call, you said like you're sitting down and you're going to work. Like right now, you're really going to work on something. And I wonder about like, what does going to work mean? And what if that going to work happens on that nurture and relationship side versus getting more consults? Like,
Yeah.
what if the money's just sitting there on your list?
Right. And so that's what I've been doing on top of getting consults. I have been making offers to that list and to people who had booked consultations with me in the past, but said no, or said maybe, or said yes, and then ghosted. I've been doing a whole email campaign and offering them like just kind of testing it out. Like, are you interested in like a 3-month instead of a 6-month?
Mhm.
Here's an offer for that. Then that really made me think of an idea of like, I wonder if my former clients would just, enjoy just some Voxer coaching because I have Voxer coaching included in my 6-month package, like unlimited. But I never really offered that as like, if you want to continue working with me, about 40% of the people who work with me or 41% renew for another 6-month package.
That's great.
Um, but I've never offered like or you could just do Voxer coaching for a lower
Mhm.
price. Um, because that business wise, that would be great for me and the client because Voxer
Yeah,
isn't putting like an hour on my, that's not a whole coaching call on my calendar. Like a 1-to-1 coaching call on my calendar, you fill that up and you have 20 clients a week because I've had 20 clients in a week before. And it's like, that is a lot. But if you had 20 clients
yeah.
on Voxer, that's a whole different animal.
Mhm. It still can feel like a lot coming from experience. So, have you ever heard of Gary Vee's way he says jab, 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 right hook?
No. I know
So
Gary Vee a lot, but I've never heard that.
it's in one of his earlier books about social media, but it's really about making sales and making offers. And the idea is jab, jab, jab. It's nurture, 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 and then go in for the sale. Versus, it sounds like
Right, right.
you got a lot of right hooks in you, but the nurture side
Yeah.
is like this
Yeah.
really cool
I
invitation.
totally agree. I was actually telling somebody about that a few months ago. I said one of the things that I've been so great at is like selling. I'll just
Mm-hmm.
sell, 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 get a consult. But one thing that I really lacked in 2022 was nurturing. That's what I've been focusing on the last 7 months. And
Yeah.
so even though I've been offering yeah, and it's funny you say the what did you say? The jab, jab,
Jab,
jab,
jab, jab,
hook.
right hook.
Right. So if you one of the things that I was listening to Alex Hormozy say was some like in his one of his new books was if you look at like how much sort of value pieces of content you want to offer before you make the sale, like at the minimum it should be three values versus the sale.
Mhm.
And because that's essentially what Facebook does. If you actually, and I actually tested this, you scroll through Facebook, you will see three of your friends' post and then an ad.
Yeah, that's interesting. It's the same with like relationships and with parenting. It's like you want to do three, four, five positives to every constructive. And so if we think about
Oh,
relating
it's
to
so good.
humans,
Yeah.
it's like I want to do three, four, five positives to every
Yeah.
ask, right?
Yeah.
And build up
So
that
I,
marketing capital.
so definitely in the last 3 months, I've gained organically 3,000 new followers on Instagram.
Mhm.
And just by really posting, trying to post a reel every day. And I have not been entirely consistent, but especially in the last 60 days, I've been posting a reel every day and just like mostly a value reel. Sometimes I'll post, or whether it's, you know, comment the word interested for my freebie,
Mhm.
which gets linked to them through ManyChat or something like that.
Oh, good. So
Um,
you're bringing them to your list.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
I've been I would say that I'm getting about at this rate like 130 people new on my list every month just through
Awesome. That's great.
organic marketing. Yeah.
Good. Okay.
If only in my mind, if only I could get the people who say yes but then are no.
Hmm.
For example, if I got everyone who said yes on the phone to actually have paid me, I would have 24,000 more dollars in my account since
Yeah.
January.
Well, I wonder, like it's one thing to focus on the people who took the action you didn't want them to take. It's another thing to focus on
Mm.
the people who took the action you did want them to take and double down on the strategies that really bring those people in. So what if you
I have
shifted
no
that?
idea what that is, though, Caryn.
Well, there are people who show up to the call, they're transparent about what's going on, and they make their payment and they do the work and they sound like they're really great clients and it's a good fit for you because not only do they do the work initially, but you're having that 40-ish% amount of people who sign on again, which says you're working with the right people. Like that should happen. So I would focus on them.
Okay.
And who are they?
All right. I shall do that.
All right. Okay. Well, I think we can leave it there. I really appreciate you sharing all your numbers and being willing to do math, even when I do math wrong. And I mean, it seems like you're on it. You've learned a ton. You've played the cold traffic game. And one of the things that's cool about that, like, sure, maybe you went out of order, whatever, like you get to think whatever you want about it. And I don't
Yeah.
think there's a absolute right way, is all of that learning will translate. Everything you learned about what kind of language works for people, what kind of consult call works for me, like what kind of people are my favorite to work with, what kind of people get the best results working with me. Like that stuff
Mm.
all translate organic, paid, cold, warm. Those are your people. So I think congratulations on amassing a huge amount of data and understanding about the work you're doing.
Yeah, I hope it was helpful for somebody.
Yes. All right. Thanks so much.
Thanks so much, Caryn.
All right. In the heat of the episode, I was doing my math wrong and I want to do the math right now. So if Sheilanova had 187 total consults in that 2.5 year period, and 31 became clients, that means that's a 16% close rate. And then if in the current year, 2024, she had 23 consults and 4 people became clients, that's a 17% close rate. So industry standard is 50% for warm audiences, and she's selling to cold audiences. So that means these rates are probably better than average. I'm not even sure what average is for cold. And what I was really curious about with all this is like, what did you really have to share given all this experience? Can you imagine getting on the phone and having that many calls, 187 phone calls with potential clients? You're going to learn a lot, right? And that's one of the things that paying for traffic gets you. It gets you reps, gets you repetition with the stuff. So I just think it's really interesting that her main takeaway is pretty similar to my main takeaway over the years, even though I've probably done more consults than that. I've just done it over way, way longer time. Is that you have to stay really curious. If you're thinking about yourself when you're trying to sell, then you're probably not going to make the sale because it's not about you. It's about the other person. Stay curious with what their experience is over there and stay curious for a long time. Like you got to poke around a little bit. You got to be like, what is actually happening? But why is this a problem for you? What, like, how do you, like, why not just do this by yourself? Like, I want to know all the ins and outs of why this is an issue for you and why is now the time to work on it, and do you even have the time to work on it, and why not do it with someone else? Like I want to know everything. Then I want to know everything about why you want to make the change. What's on the other side of that? What does it look like? Is that even the life you want to have? Like i'm I honestly, this curiosity really gets more and more skeptical the longer I do these, because I'm really fighting so hard for the understanding of where you're going being right for you. That's my job on a consult. I'm here with your future self right next to me. And we're both like, is this the life we want? Like, is that what we want to have happen? Are you the person who wants to show up and live that way? Like, is that aligned with your values? So healthy skepticism for your clients about what they want, your potential clients, because it does bring out the curiosity. It's I think when we offer people to work with us really fast, we miss out on them getting to actually really dig in and have the most self-awareness about their problem and what they really want. And I think it's such a powerful place to make a purchase from as a client. Like people don't often say yes and then no. If we stick with them and we get so into it and we're like, I'm not sure. I'm just not sure. Like I need to be sure. I'm not going to offer for you to work with me unless I am sure. I know I can help you. And I know now's the time. And I know that you're the person to do the work and you're the person who wants that life that you say you want. Like I believe you. I have to believe you. All right. So Sheilanova, thank you for being here and for being transparent with your numbers and for sharing your learnings from the road that you created, that you worked hard for, that you paid for. I appreciate it. It was a gift. Thanks all. And this is just a heads up to add that if you are interested in a how to get more clients intensive with me, those are things we can do. We can hop on a Zoom call. We can go over all the data in your business and we can look at what is it that's on the table for you? Where's the low hanging fruit? What's the strategy that's going to work for the next 3, 6, 9, 12 months? Let's do that together. Let's look at what can be easier for you and where are those next clients? Because usually the data will tell us. All right. Thanks for being here.